what are some aspects of a twin flame that you look for? Like, what are the things that were kind of a dead giveaway? Would you be able to share that with the audience? Welcome, everybody, back to another episode of Soul Inspired. Today, I have a really interesting talk and guest with me, and it's Lenore Kingdon, and she is an expert and a mentor in twin flames. And I'm really excited to have you on. So I know we've been booked for a while, and thanks for also making the adjustments, like I said before we started talking here, to get you on because
Thank
I've
you.
been really wanting to talk to you. And I normally, before we get really going down the idea of twin flames and all these things and what they are, I always ask my guests the very first question I always ask, and it may or may not resonate with you, but I generally ask if there was an event or a particular time in your life, if you can think through your life, that led you in the direction that you're in now and the work that you've been doing for, I think I read that you were doing this the last 20 years or so. And if there was an event or something that led you in this direction working with twin flames.
Well, it's so as you know, everything that happens in our lives from birth or pre-birth or whatever is leading us to certain events in our lives, like our soul contracts. And with twin flame, what happens is twins vibrate at exactly the same frequency, whereas all other soul fractals vibrate at slightly different frequencies. So when you vibrate at exact same frequency as a twin flame, you're drawing towards each other. So your whole lifetime is geared towards coming into contact, some kind of form of contact. So that is the moment that you're probably referring to, is when you actually meet your twin. And when you meet your twin, it's extremely intense, and it's that intensity that as that increases, you then reach soul recognition. And when you reach soul recognition, that is when you explode apart. And that's the catalyst for the healing of they're two polarities, and that's the catalyst of the healing for the feminine polarity, or you can call them the chaser or the positive polarity, whatever you want to call them. Most people call them the feminine and the masculine. So when they explode apart, that's the catalyst for the feminine to go searching for healing and ascension and awareness.
Okay. And so you're saying, so again, so that gives it gives a general breakdown of the way twin flames work. And we'll dig a little even deeper because I have some questions around that. So in your particular life, was there a moment when you met a twin flame? Was there something that actually changed you? Or were you as a small child already understanding this? Like where did this happen? I guess that's my question. When did this happen in
Yeah,
your
yeah.
particular life?
Well, I actually didn't even understand it was a twin flame connection for probably 15 years. So I met my twin flame 21 years ago. We met out at a pub, you know, friends of friends kind of thing. And um, what happens when you finally meet your twin flame is, yeah, as I said, you have that intensity of recognition. And so it's energetic. So if you want to think of it as two polarities coming together, like they're extremely attracted, like if you think of it as magnets, the magnets are pulling them together. Once they pull together, and they get to a certain frequency and vibration, the magnets switch and they repel. And it's in the, sorry, what was your question?
The main question is if there was an event that shifted you into this work. And it sounds like you're saying it was when you met your twin flame. That was kind of the
Yes.
beginning of the changes in your life.
Yes. Yeah. So you could say, like in my childhood, in my background, I had always been really interested in the occult. I come from a line of sort of psychics on my mother's side and actually on my father's side, very deeply spiritual people, but not overtly new age spiritual. But I'd been exposed to psychic people my whole life, and I took myself off to church when I was about 7 or 8. Like my family stayed home and I went off to church at a really young age because I had this fascination with the spiritual and with something else. There's something else going on, and what else is it going on? So there's that background, I think, which then led me to my twin. Like that was part of the magnet pulling me towards the spiritual life, spiritual aspect. And the twin flame connection dynamic is a spiritual connection. So when you talk about fifth dimension, ascended dimension, etc., that's where our relationship is primarily. And the reason it's been brought together in 3D in the third dimension is to increase, so through a whole process, increase level of consciousness, awareness, unconditional love. So ability for unconditional love. And when you reach it, your twin reaches it most of the time, not all the time. And then that energy emanates to to the world around you. So it's about bringing in the new earth. Twin flame essentially is about bringing in the new earth, a certain paradigm of bringing in the new earth. So as you know, lots and lots of people are doing it in different ways. This is one of the ways. And probably actually like NDEs, this is a very harsh, brutal spiritual awakening that you have absolutely no choice about. Some people choose to spiritually awaken. You don't have a choice about this one.
Right. Okay. Thank you for explaining that. I resonate with everything you're saying because I have a feeling that I'm involved in that situation with twin flames. I have a very strong
Right.
feeling. Yes, I do. Um, and so, but I don't know. Maybe I'll have a different idea of that after this conversation. But
Yeah, yeah,
um, from what I understand, you just said is we're all. I mean, we're obviously of different dimensions. If we're all part of the fifth dimension together, and we're there as we're here. We're here and there at the same time. I'm talking to so many people who've had NDEs, and they come these conversations I have now have completely awake. I mean, I was always obsessed with NDEs as a small child, um, into my teenage years. That's what really got me involved in spirituality. But now that I'm actually speaking with people one on one who've had these experiences and watching them talk about it in such normalcy of being, oh, it's okay when I pass because I'm already there. And yeah, when I
yeah.
was there, I met my best friend there who's still very much alive here. And I'm like, well, that doesn't make any sense, but it does because we're also there. And once you get into these conversations, you understand the way things work a little bit different, right? Than what a lot of us have been raised to believe or understand. So from what I understand you're saying is we're in the fifth dimension. We incarnate in this third dimension and 3D, and is it that there are almost like contracts with another individual to come together to work through things in 3D together? Is this I'm trying
I
to
def
make it simplified, but does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Which, as you know, also spirituality and interdimensional stuff is extremely hard to simplify, and it's an
Mhm.
energy, and it's about interpreting the energy and getting the correct words to explain that energy. But I feel there is soul contract, most definitely, but I also feel that it's soul contract that is a thread through many past lives. It's not just a soul contract for this life. It's a soul contract that you've made to have many, many lifetimes over.
Mm.
And the other thing that I channeled from my higher self about twin flames is that we are, or all of us, are fractals of the oversoul. So I know a lot of people talk about us being two incarnations of the one soul, or the other half of the soul, but we're not. We're our own soul in our own rights, but we vibrate at exactly the same frequency. Whereas all souls, the infinite amount of souls, all have a very slight difference in frequency. Twin flames have the exact same frequency.
Okay.
So this is how it was told to me, explained to me from the higher realms.
Interesting. So if we're part of the same frequency, I see I'm very visual. So I think sometimes I wonder if I could have, I think we're all psychic to a point, or mediums, but as a
For
child
sure.
I had all these things happen in my life that I look back, but when people talk, I see visuals really quick. And I don't know why I saw this, but it interprets it in this world. If you look at, like a it's almost magnetism, like a that's the way I see the looking like a bug trap with a bug, like those lights, and the
All
bug
right.
just
Yeah.
goes right
Yeah.
to the that's what I saw in my head. So it was
Yeah.
verifying this idea that because it's part of the same frequency, you can't escape it. It's within, I don't know if that makes sense, but it's magnetizing.
Definitely, definitely, definitely makes sense. Like I imagine us as all chrysalises hanging from a big umbrella over soul, and we're all kind of vibrating. Actually properly vibrating, and all at different rates.
Right.
And yeah, like twin flames, a magnet that
Mhm.
because of their exact same vibration, then they magnetize to each other
Right.
like no other souls do, in a way that no other souls do.
Can you have more than one twin flame in your life?
I believe you can actually. I had that channeled to me from the higher realms as well, that you can have more than one twin flame. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And so if someone's listening in right now and they're wondering if they're in an alignment with their twin flame, what are the what are some aspects of a twin flame that you look for? Like, what are the things that were kind of a dead giveaway? Would you be able to share that with the audience?
So um when you meet your twin flame, so I talked before about the intensity, the crazy intensity, and that can sometimes mimic like a bit of a toxic love bombing.
Mhm.
Um, but you're the kind of person who has never fallen for love bombing in the past, and you've had relationships that have ended, and you mourn them and you grieve them and you get over and you move on. But with a twin flame, you can't do that. So you meet each other, you have this intensity. You normally have quite a short relationship to start with, so maybe 3 weeks to a few months, but it's not long before you reach soul recognition and you're repelled.
Mm.
So when that happens, for me, and I know for a lot of people, most twins feminines, it's when you're repelled, you have fallen so deeply and crazily in love with this person that the rejection becomes like an addiction. You become addicted to that person. And I've always said, and I remember I was going to counseling at the time because I was trying to make sense of what was going on and I couldn't. And I said, he feels like heroin cut with crushed glass, and I inject it. And then the glass just slices my veins and arteries to bits, and I just bleed out everywhere. That's what
Wow.
truly, truly, truly. I have come out the other end of that. So what I offer and what I do when I work with twins is guide them through that process to the other end. But we're just talking about this bit at the moment. So there'll be an intensity, there'll be a repelling, then like an addictive energy. And they say runner chaser, but that they often kind of twist and turn. So sometimes the masculine will do the chasing, but they will only chase to a certain point and then they'll keep rejecting. And sometimes the feminine does the running, but she'll only run to a certain point and she'll keep coming back. So it's kind of, it's, what would you, I don't know, like in a
It's
washing
kind of
machine or
like,
something. I don't know, but,
yeah,
but,
it kind of seems like a cat and mouse type thing where they're kind of going back and forth.
yeah, yeah, cat and mouse, and the polarities can change slightly throughout the whole process.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. So you said there was like the repelling, and if if you're feeling you're in a twin flame situation, is that a recipe for disaster? Does that mean it's going to end? Or can you work with it? Can you have a life partnership with a twin flame?
You do, absolutely. Not all twin flames end up together in the third dimension. Like there needs to be a compatibility and almost like a soulmate flavor to them as well. But when you talk about the repelling and how do you work with the repelling, well, the repelling is just like massive rejection. And the way you work with the repelling is by dissolving that energy, neutralizing that runner chaser energy. And only the feminine can do that. So the feminine has to do all the conscious aware work. So the feminine will work really hard at neutralizing and dissolve. So it's about dissolving her own ego or their own ego, because it's actually not gender based, it's all energy. So it's about dissolving their ego to neutralize the energy. And then because like I always see it as because you're joined, like your energy is joined. So quantum entanglement, it's a perfect example of quantum entanglement. As soon as you meet this person, you're more entangled than what you were before. And so I imagine the feminine as the one doing the healing and ascension. And
Mhm.
because they're connected, as much as the masculine can be extremely resistant, extremely stubborn, and caught up in lots of addictive patterns and negative patterns, which the feminine is too. But the feminine has decided to look at those and heal them. So as the feminine does this, then the masculine's got no choice but to do the same thing.
Okay.
And it can manifest in some massive life changes. And yes, it is extremely painful. And it is extremely life changing. And as we know, life changes, which are dictated by our higher self, isn't not necessarily what our lower self wants. So
Mm.
our lower self has to follow the higher self, kicking and screaming sometimes.
So thank you for that description. So I really like the way you were explaining that. And a couple things I think I realized very quickly when you say masculine, feminine, you don't even mean gender, masculine, feminine. You mean more masculine, feminine energy. So you could have a
Energy. Yeah.
male with feminine energy and a
Yeah.
female with male energy, and
Yeah.
they're working together. And the feminine is has because they're twin flames, they may have experienced the same life experiences, or it could be just the same things going on, but the feminine has decided to work through that and is trying to bring the male along, or trying to
Yeah.
help the male along. Is
Well, the idea is that because you're so connected, you're so deeply in love, all you want is to be with this person. Like
Mhm.
you know their essence. No matter what they're doing in their lives in the 3D, no matter how kind of low vibrational it is, you know their essence. And all you want, you see them in their magnificence, and they see you in your magnificence. And all you want is to be together. But because masculines and feminines generally have quite a big pain body. So they've usually had quite a bit of trauma, especially in childhood, like big T trauma. And so they've built a lot of protective ego, a lot of protective walls. And that's what stops them from getting together, because they won't see soulmates. Soulmates will allow this, and soulmates will allow for um, these obstacles, and they'll work around them. Whereas twin flames won't allow each other, the energy won't allow them to be codependent in any way, shape, or form.
Okay, that
So
was,
the
yeah.
idea,
Sorry to interrupt you, but that was going to be one of my questions, was the difference between soul flames, or sorry, soulmates and twin flames. And I
yeah,
think you answered one of them, is that soulmates kind of allow the self growth more, I guess, of the other person. It's more
they,
easygoing, maybe.
yeah. So soulmates will work together, I guess, for their growth, but soulmates will also work in with like they won't make you face your shit basically. Soulmates
Right.
won't do that.
Right.
Soulmates, uh, what's the word? Like can wrap you in cotton wool. And it's all lovely and beautiful, and there's nothing wrong with it, because
Hmm.
soulmate relationships can be amazing, and they often are. But twin flame, that's the difference. Twin flame doesn't wrap you in cotton wool. Twin flame won't allow that.
Would it be safe then to say that there's more spiritual growth with twin flame alignment?
And
I
the
mean,
twin flame dynamic
outside of,
paradigm is
yeah.
completely spiritual.
Yeah, because I think about if you have a soulmate, soulmates are, like you said, they're wonderful. They feel great. They almost feel more comfortable, I would think. Everything's very
Definitely.
comforting and easy, but I would almost assume people can get bored of soulmates because there's no growth spiritually at some point. Maybe not. Maybe they can live a whole life like that, but I think a lot of people tend to say, I'm going after something. We don't know why, but we want it to be harder on us. And we go off into this and find our twin flame. And then, okay, there it is. It's
Yeah, it's not
interesting,
something you
right?
want to go looking for. Yeah,
Yeah, I think that happens though. I feel like, and I think with soulmates, there's probably a number of soulmates you can have, but I would think that twin flames are
sure.
far and few between, right? So,
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
wow, that's
And
really
you can't
interesting.
call in your twin flame. Like that's, I have heard out there people saying call in your twin flame. You cannot call in your twin flame. That's not how it works. There's a predestined soul contract, as we talked about, and your twin
Mhm.
flame will magnetize to you if that's what's meant to happen in this lifetime.
The reason I mention, and I'm not talking just about myself, but I've talked to friends over the years and things like that. And every once in a while, someone will say, just out of nowhere, this person shows up and it's unbelievable. And then, oh my goodness, right? So it's almost like they crash in. Like there's no like, hey, I'm going to call out and wait for my soulmate. It's like you have no choice. Like they just show up. Maybe they don't show up at the best time. Maybe they show up at a good time. But does that make sense? Because I think if there's a magnetism
Definitely.
like that, there's
Yeah.
no, you know.
Well, yeah, like time doesn't exist. Time is an illusion. So whatever's happening in the 3D, it doesn't matter. You'll magnetize no matter. So often, nearly always, actually, always when twin flames meet, it's the right person at the wrong time. Always.
Mm,
The
okay.
difference is that they have reached a certain vibration, like, so we all kind of have an essence, a vibrational essence. And then depending on what we're doing in our lives, there's an external vibration. So the external vibration finally matches when twins come together. Yeah, but it's not always necessarily at the right time for either of them in their other private lives.
You mentioned in the twin flame, if someone finds himself in a twin flame situation and they feel they're in that repelling stage, can you define a little more about the repelling? Like, what does that feel like? What is going
It
on when
feels
that's
like
going on?
super painful. Like what it feels like is really, really painful, very emotionally, like the suicidal moments, like it's suicidal pain. Like it's not just this is like a breakup. It goes so much deeper. And the reason for that is because it's about a lot of wounds from past lives. So um you cannot stop thinking about this person. You're crying all the time, and it's beyond what a normal breakup is. All you want to do is see them. Like you both ache to see each other. Like your body, your chest, your heart aches to see this person. Um, you can be thinking, if I can't have this person, there's no point me being here. Like, what's the point of my life? I can't function. You might be able to get up and go to work every morning, but you don't function in any other way. And often your other parts of your life, like your job, your social life, your friends, your family, is great. But when it comes to this part of your life, you're an absolute mess. So you've got it all together. 90% of your life, you've got it together. This part of your life is an absolute mess. Yeah, so it's extremely painful dealing with the rejection, and you can't get the masculine to come in and talk to you. They don't even know why they're repelling. They don't
Mm,
know why they're running away from you, which is a really interesting thing. So you can't get them in to get closure or to get some kind, why are you doing this?
mhm.
Because they don't know why.
I almost wonder if one of the reasons why the masculine is repelling is because there's a mirroring effect happening. And
Definitely a mirroring effect.
yeah, they
Definitely.
see what they are and they're repelling
Yeah,
the almost like repelling
yeah,
yourself and
yeah, yeah.
right? Yeah.
They are repelling themselves. I mean, that thing where you are your twin and they are you, that's completely real. So they see not only they when they're looking at you in your magnificence and vice versa, you're actually looking at your own magnificence. But when you're also seeing looking at them, you're seeing your wounds in them, even though obviously you don't realize they're your wounds. So there's a lot of projecting going on because your wounds just come to the surface and they explode. Um, yeah, it's quite complex, really.
Hmm.
It's not a simple answer to
Right.
a simple
Yeah.
question.
Yeah, but immediately I saw like a mirror and I thought, it's probably like seeing your own wounds. You're not going to see all the, like you said, the magnificent sides of them, but you're going to also
Yeah,
see all the ugly sides. And then
yeah,
if it, if unconsciously, it probably reminds them of themselves and they don't want to deal with that. So they're repelling
that's
off.
exactly right. So they're repelling them. They're running away from themselves.
Right.
So they're running from themselves, and the feminine is chasing themselves.
Hmm.
Um, but what I was going to say about why they run too is that's how they support you. So when we're talking about soulmates support very much on the 3D. Twin flames support energetically. So the way the masculine supports the feminine energetically is by rejecting them all the time. Because every time they reject, the feminine gets triggered. And the idea is to work with the trigger and work out why are you being so triggered? What is going on with your own subconscious beliefs, your own negative patterns, your own negative behaviors? Start pulling down your stuff. So every time, so it might take a lot of rejecting and repelling before the feminine has the courage to say, yes, I'm the one doing it wrong. Like, I'm not saying the masculine is perfect, but they've got their own life and they're doing their own thing. And they're just saying to the feminine in an energetic way, you've got a lot of work to do. You're really, really wounded. And I can't come to you when you're so wounded.
Right. Wow. Okay. Got a good question for you here. I wanted to ask you because in your work, it sounds like you mentor people who have maybe had twin flame endings, or they may even be currently in a twin flame relationship.
You
Now
can never end a twin flame relationship
I'm
ever,
sorry.
ever, ever.
Yeah, from a
In
physical
the midst of it.
standpoint, it
Yeah. Yeah.
may be people who are together and they're no longer together, that type of thing in the physical. And I just wanted to know, and I'm assuming a lot of the people you speak with, maybe not though, but are there ones that you spoke with that have found a way for it to work? Because I would assume that it could be a very unbelievable relationship if you can make it work. And I wondered if there's commonalities of things that twin flames could do
Mm.
to help each other get to a point where it's the most magnificent relationship they could ever
Yeah.
have.
Yeah. So the feminine has to do all the work at the beginning, all the work. And the feminine needs to get to a point within herself. So full of self love, acceptance, peace, that when they get together with the masculine, there's little to no triggering. So that it does get to that point, but it's not together. Twin flames don't heal together,
Mm,
especially the masculines. Especially the feminines. The feminines are predominantly all healed, and the masculine will still have some healing to do and do it best in union. But the majority of the healing you cannot do together because you would tear each other apart. You would be so badly triggered constantly that there'd be murder scenes all over the place.
okay.
It's the triggers are really intense, and the biggest wound that they both have is fear of abandonment, and that manifests in lots of ways. Control is probably one of the biggest ones,
Hmm.
and yeah, you can't when love is not about control. Love
Right.
is completely the opposite. to control. So when they come together, it's not like it's sunshine and roses all the time. You still have to work at it like a normal relationship, but it probably becomes a bit more like a soulmate relationship, but still in that twin flame paradigm of the masculine and the feminine within both people are in divine union, and then
Ah,
they're in divine union. So,
okay.
how I don't know if there's a lot of talk about masculine, feminine dynamics. That doesn't really apply to the twin flame. A little bit of it can, but you can't practice masculine, feminine dynamics with twin flame. It won't work. The masculine won't allow it. The energy won't allow it.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not too familiar with the dynamics, the masculine feminine dynamics.
Okay.
I'm understanding what you're meaning by the feminine and masculine. I would assume
Yeah.
also sometimes in a twin flame relationship that I wonder how one determines who's the feminine, who's the masculine, if
Yeah.
especially
Yeah.
if they both have triggers, so you're saying the feminine is the one that's really working hard to not trigger the masculine. Um,
Well, no, not to not trigger them.
mhm,
If the masculine gets triggered, that's on them. Like if anyone gets triggered, that's on them.
right.
And if you're working hard not to trigger someone, then that's codependency. So by the time the feminine is healed enough and the masculine is healed enough for them to come together, they're it's very telepathic. So I have insane telepathy with my twin flame. So when you're together, you kind of go like this, like the weaving is like that. So remember how my hands were kind of going like this before with the energy?
Mhm.
When you come together and there's a lot of the healing has been done, you weave in and out with each other. So sometimes it's this one, their masculine is more predominant, and sometimes this one, their masculine is more predominant, and it changes as
Okay.
the energy needs it. And you don't really need to talk about it too much because
That's
you're
what
talking telepathically.
one of the questions I wrote down is if the masculine and feminine were interchangeable between each other, if at some point you get to that balancing act. And so it
Yep.
sounds like that's what you're saying. You get to a point where
Yep.
it comes together, but from the
Yep.
beginning, it's one is definite
Yes.
this way and one is definitely this way, and you have to work through that until
It's
you get
very
that
chaotic.
balance. Wow,
Yes.
that's
Yes.
really
Yeah.
interesting.
Balance is like, do you know anything about tarot cards?
I don't. It's funny you said
Uh,
that. I keep seeing them everywhere, and it's like they're wanting me to grab some. I don't know
yeah.
much about them. But yeah, I
Okay. Well,
actually it's funny if you look at the book I'm using here just to write my notes
yeah.
in.
Okay. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I didn't know this was a book that also was part of a tarot card match, so I didn't get it, but
Ah,
I'm not
okay.
too
Well,
familiar
it's
with
I
them.
mean, it's all connected.
Hmm.
I'm just looking for the card that for me is the twin flame card. And a lot of your listeners will probably know tarot. So temperance for me is the twin flame card. And temperance is about balancing the masculine and the feminine. And see how the energy is kind of going like this.
Hmm.
See how the energy is kind of like some of the masculine energy is flowing to the feminine, some of the feminine energy is flowing to the masculine,
Yes.
and it's like a constant flow of the energies doing what they need to do depending on both people at the time at the time. And this is
Right.
Archangel Michael, and Archangel Michael is the overseer of twin flames. He's like the main carer for twin flames in if you follow archangels. And
Yes.
for me, so Jesus and Mary Magdalene were the original twin flames, and Mother Mary was in that as well. So for me, my main guides are Mother Mary and Mary Magdalene. And so if you want to talk about the high perspective, the high reason for twin flames, it's to anchor the feminine energy to bring in the new earth, and anchoring the feminine energy, not just through the feminine person who holds the feminine polarity, but coming into divine union and balance in both people. And that it's the feminine energy in the masculine and the feminine that it will anchor the new earth. So it's through Christ consciousness, which is unconditional love, that the new earth is born.
Right. I hear the term New Earth all the time. I watch a lot of videos on it, try to understand it a bit more. Um, do you feel that there's always been twin flames throughout our history at the same intensity, or do you think that's intensified?
I definitely think it's intensified. So I think there has been twin flames always, especially, well, maybe since at least Jesus was incarnated. Um, because I think that's because the reason Jesus came was to increase the level of teach people unconditional love, and the twin flame awakening is one of the most powerful ways to bring unconditional love in. That's why I think maybe it started with Jesus and Mary, and they're the original twin flames. But it has been twin flames have been all through the ages. When I met my twin flame 21 years ago, it wasn't very common, but it's becoming so common now. And I think so many more twins are being activated because now that we're in the age of Aquarius and coming into probably the 5 years or so before coming into the age of Aquarius, a lot of twins were being activated. And I think that with all the energy together, with the astrology, I mean, it's all connected. The cosmology is to as almost expedite the new earth.
It
So yes, I think it is a lot more intense now.
and is it really common for twin flames to have synchronicities together?
The synchronicities. Oh, that's a huge one. The synchronicities are insane. And what I have learnt through my time is so Christ consciousness, unconditional love, etc., is about unity consciousness. So realizing that we are all one, we are all from the one oversoul, and we are all connected. And I found that I got the most synchronicities, and a lot of other twins have confirmed this when I was in separation consciousness from my twin.
Hmm.
But I didn't realize that until maybe a year or so ago, that every time my thoughts, so, your thoughts create your reality. Every time my thoughts went to, oh, he's not my twin, or projecting a lot of my wounds onto him, I would start getting these synchronicities to tell me that no, he is. And I'll tell you, one of my biggest synchronicities that I will never forget is it was a Sunday night. I was wanting to watch a movie, and there was this movie that I'd heard about for a few years and I'd never watched it. And I turned on Netflix and there it was. And I thought, okay, I'm going to watch this. I hadn't heard from my twin for a couple of weeks, which was kind of unusual. So usually after a few days of not hearing from him, like those first few days would be really tough. And then I'd go, okay, and practice the letting go and the grounding. And so it was fine. And actually, that's when they come in, is when you do all that stuff, which is a very interesting aside. But anyway, I was watching this movie and I get a message from him, and it's a photo, and it's just a photo of a river from where he lives. No words, nothing. So as soon as I saw that photo, I knew that he was back home. And I was watching this movie. I was about halfway through this movie when he contacted me. And I watched this movie and I had no idea about it. And it happened to be set in the school he went to and in the town he grew up, which are remote places.
Oh, wow.
And so, yeah, I'm getting goosebumps
Yeah.
just at that point. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, wow, he must really miss home. It's been a long time since he's been back home. This is before I'd heard from him. Then I get this message, he's back home.
Mhm.
He said, what are you doing? I said, I'm watching a movie. What movie? I told him the movie. And I said, you've probably already seen it because it's set where you went to school and where you grew up. And he said, what's the name of it? I told him, and he said, oh, my godmother's brother wrote that movie.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, and so the synchronicities are very strong within the twin flames. I kind of
Really
had the
strong.
kind of knew that answer, but I thought, I'd bring it up because I'm sure a lot of people out there that are just looking for confirmation of what you're
Yeah,
picking up, right?
confirmation. And it's a really interesting one. And it is confirmation, but it's telling you get out of separation consciousness because, yes, this person is your twin flame,
Mm.
and start getting into unity consciousness with your twin flame. You are in union all the time. There is no such thing as twin flame separation. You are always in union, and start believing that and knowing it and embodying it. Once you embody it and they're living in here, you stop getting the synchronicities.
And that can be, again, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but that can be in an actual 3D human long-term life relationship, but it can also be in different relationships, but staying connected as a twin flame. Are you saying that, or are you saying everyone should be together in that? I'm just confused by that a little bit.
So you mean that it can be someone that you're with your whole life, that you
Yeah,
can
like
be
is
your
this
twin flame?
when you say something as in get out of the separation consciousness and be, you know, become involved with your twin
Unity.
flame in unity, are we talking in a romantic relationship
Oh,
always?
right, right. So we're always in union. So you always have to embody that you are always in union with your twin. That doesn't always translate to being together in the 3D. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't.
Right.
There needs to be a compatibility and a readiness. You know, we both have our own separate lives, and we also have our own soul contracts that we have to fulfill that aren't to do with the twin flame. Well, it is, because everything is to do with the twin flame connection. But um, we also have free will, and I have certain thoughts about free will that probably a lot of people don't. But um, there's certain parts of our lives that we have to live out and before we come together, but not all twin flames are designed to come together.
Okay. We talked a little bit before we started the episode here that about how a lot of people that are on my podcast have had near death experiences, and I have quite a few people I'm going to be interviewing like that. And when they come back from these experiences, could be big experiences, could be experiences where they've seen loved ones, could be just a moment in and out of their body, but a lot of them come back with these special gifts. And I'm curious if we could talk a little bit on that, just because you mentioned something about people who are in touch with their twin flame do experience some. um
Yeah, so it's you'll have the meeting, you'll have soul recognition, you'll have the repelling, the rejection, and all the pain. And then when you start to realize that you have a greater awareness of your own negative patterns, beliefs, traumas, ego body, and you start healing and working through those. So there's, they refer to it as ascension. So the more ascension that you experience, the more psychic gifts start to come online for you. And the psychic gifts that you feel that you probably already have will get stronger.
that was a perfect way of describing it. So the way, if I can just interpret what you said, because I could be a little wrong, but it'd be that because you're with your twin flame and you're working through your spiritual growth, as that continues quicker because you're with this twin flame who is challenging you through this life to do that, those gifts come online quicker because you're not stagnant in your spiritual growth.
Yeah.
You almost have to really
Yep.
push through and understand
Yep.
who we are at a deeper core of who we are.
Yep.
Okay.
It's almost like you're pulling away all these obstacles to your spiritual self, these walls. And as you pull away the walls and the obstacles to your spiritual self, then there's nothing stopping your crown chakra being completely open and getting the messages and the knowledge that you need to get. And like my spiritual growth involved, I went down the near death experience rabbit hole. I'm just fascinated by NDEs. And what that did for me in my spiritual growth was gave me more of an awareness of what is on the other side, and what life is really all about and what we're really here for. I went to a meditation circle for a year or so where the facilitator channeled ascended masters. That was the meditation. And so you get a lot of information about the universe and, again, why we're here, and about love and about beauty, and just amazing stuff. So NDEs is like being thrown into a spiritual awakening, and twin flame is also like being thrown into a spiritual awakening. And other things I discovered was that in previous lives, a lot of twin flames lived in ancient Egypt and were high priestesses in ancient Egypt. And so I learned, so as a high priestess in ancient Egypt, you're actually were really used and abused, or are, because it's all happening concurrently, by the hierarchy for your spiritual gifts, but also as a baby factory. So I made a vow. Obviously, my last life as a high priestess, apparently I've had several. I made a vow that I would never allow my spiritual gifts on board online in this lifetime until I feel emotionally safe. And so
Mm.
this is what I've needed to do to feel safe for my gifts to come online.
Wow.
And it's
And
ever evolving. Like, it's not like this is the end. Like, it's
I
continually
was
evolving.
I was just saying that from my own spiritual journey is every time I think I figured everything out, something comes in and says, "Oh no, this is just the start. There's a whole different piece." And I don't know where that's my ego, right? That
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I can hold all the information of the universe in this skin suit body that I've created, that I know it
Yeah.
all. And so
Yeah.
I get to a point where I know it all, and then something comes up and I'll have a guest on and they'll say something and I'll go, "Oh, I never thought of that."
Oh,
And then that whole thing that I knew was true becomes scattered, and I go, "Oh, now I got
yeah,
to
yeah.
question that." So it's a
I know. Well,
constant
it's,
growing,
it's
right?
constant. The beginning of last year, in January last year, so rather than doing New Year's resolutions, we all pick a word, choose a word that we're going to embody that year. So my one for last year was expansion.
Okay.
Careful what you wish for, because I just like exploded. My expansion just exploded. Um, I became crystalline. I was given a crystalline spine. I was connected with the Arcturians. I wrote a chapter in a book which I told you about. That was massive. So writing a chapter in a book was massive because I was about my twin flame journey, and so I had to go back and get back into the energy of the 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 beginning, the soul recognition, the major triggering, repelling part. So that was a whole process in itself. We did a lot of workshops with the publisher. One was releasing the witch wound. So I became aware of my witch wound and worked at releasing that, which made me give up the job I was doing because it was the epitome of being controlled by the patriarchy, which has been controlled by the patriarchy. So I'm kind of, you know, establishing a new livelihood, getting into my mission and purpose, which is supporting other twins through. So yeah, expansion. There's so much, like, it's all connected, and it's just massive.
It's constant. It's
It's
constant.
constant.
And
Yeah.
that's what I love about these episodes is, and these podcasts that are out there for everyone, because everyone will come across information at a different time in their life. You could have someone come on here and listen to this talk we've had and completely understand everything we're talking about. But then you could have someone else come on and say, "Whoa, like what is going on? This is beyond what I comprehend." And it's not that anyone's at a different hierarchy or level. It's just that their our own personal growth just keeps expanding, right? It's
Yeah.
and what feels right to us. But I was going to ask you, you mentioned something about the book. I don't know if I missed that before, but you had a piece in
Right.
a book.
Yeah, yeah. So I wrote a chapter. So it's an anthology of stories, and it's all women. And I wrote a chapter on my twin flame. So the book is called Threshold: Stories of Initiation, um, by Ashwin Publishing, and it's your story on. The premise was what happened to get you to decide to start working in your soul business? What
Mm.
was the catalyst? What was the event that brought you to decide to work in your soul business? Yeah.
Right. So similar to my first question as to when things started to happen, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yes. Yep.
interesting. I'm great. That's great that you're part of that. And
Yeah.
so you, speaking of your soul business, so you do counseling or mentoring, or what is it that you do in your business side of things with the twins
So it's
flames?
like on my website, I call myself a doula. Um, and that is so doulaing is to facilitate people across the threshold, across the painful threshold. So for most of my other life, I was a midwife. So it was a similar kind of thing, is helping parents cross the threshold through pregnancy and labor into becoming new parents. So anybody who's had a baby or seen a birth or been involved knows it's extremely painful at a physical level, but it's extremely soul changing and spiritual. And when you get to the other end, i.e., birth, um, there's no feeling, no other feeling like it. So, as a doula for twin flames, is there's this really painful part that can be prolonged. So, if you look at the hero's journey, you can get stuck in the temptress part of the hero's journey, and that can create a looping with your twin and with the rejection and the lack mentality and the victim mentality and all that kind of stuff. So I feel like my purpose is to help other twins get through that
Mm.
faster than what I got through it. And I have been through just about everything that twins can go through. And I feel like the purpose for that was so that I can support other twins because I will have working knowledge of what they're going through. So to get them over that pain, over the threshold of the pain and into the beautiful, peaceful, content, divine union, sacred union.
So most people who connect with you may or may not know they're in that kind of relationship, or they probably have an idea of what you do at that
They
point. That
have an idea. They have an
okay,
idea. Yep.
yeah,
Yep. And
okay.
they're ready to look at their stuff. Like they've got the courage to say yes to themselves and the courage to say yes to me because I, I, I won't, I'm not mamby-pamby. I won't mollycoddle. I will provoke and liberate, but I'll do it lovingly from a space of love. And because I'm not attached to their story, I can be the support and be the mentor and feed them and give them water and all that kind of stuff as they go through that pain.
I love
Nourish
that.
them,
Where
nourish
did you
them.
say where did you say people can find you? What was their website?
It's called twinflamelovepotion.com. I've also got a YouTube channel, which is at Twin Flame Love Potion, and TikTok and Instagram, the same, but with the dots and the underscores in between the words.
Okay. I'll get those from you and put them in the end notes as well. So Twin Flame Love Potion is the
Yep.
name. Okay.
Yeah, the
That's
name.
great. I
Yep.
love it.
Yep.
I love it. And just one last question I had for you. One of the main questions I always ask everyone, and I always end my episodes with this is if you've lived your life, you have your own things going on, all these different things. And I always love to find out what people feel with this question because you're all doing different things. But if I said to you, why are we here? What comes to you? Why are we here?
Well, through my own learnings, we're here to learn unconditional love. Like we're here to be at the level of what the fifth dimension is, which is the ascended master level, which is the unconditional love level. Um, that's the end goal. Getting there is where you have your soul contracts to learn all your lessons, to learn empathy, because empathy, is the precursor or connected to the unconditional love. So the reason we're actually here on earth is to learn all this stuff so that we can expand unconditional love on the earth and in the universe.
I love that. So it's basically it's love to love, but unconditionally.
Yeah,
So
and to be love, like the verb of love, be love and emanate love.
right. I think a lot of people hear that And they go, well, I hear that all the time, but they don't understand what that means. They're like, what
Yeah,
does it
for
mean just
sure.
to love? Just okay, well, yeah, I love my mother or I love my partner, but they don't it's I think it comes to a point where I I always put this question out to people because a lot of people say, "Well, I've gotten myself to that place." I said, "Really though?" Because if you're driving down the road and someone cuts you off in traffic, do you send them love? And I think there's many times where I do. And it's because I'm really
For
trying to
sure.
get to that place. I'm
Yeah.
thinking, what has that person gone through to get to that point? Or I start to that's just where I'm at now. Now, if I would have went when I was 19 years old and first driving and someone did that, I'd be like, I'm gonna race this person and figure out who was in the car. And just it comes
Yeah.
from anger and right. But I
Yes.
think as we grow older and we're trying to understand the whole reason why we're here, to love is to love. And that's it seems easy, but
Yes, it's
it's
so not
not.
easy.
It's
No,
definitely
I
not.
mean we're all human. Like I still do it. I'm still very much got my human self that I have. So it's about being mindful. Like one of my biggest teachers was Eckhart Tolle, and he still
Love
is. Like I
Eckhart.
still, yeah, I love Eckhart. He's just amazing, Meister Tolle. I've seen them called, and he's an ascended master for sure. Like he's reached ascended master level, and he's probably got it together. There's not many people who do, but
Yeah,
I try to reach him, attain
right.
Eckhart Tolle status.
Yeah, like emanate his energy. He comes out and he just sits there and he'll just go silent. He's one of these people you can just watch him in silence and be just
Yeah,
in
yeah,
awe.
yeah,
Because he's letting things through and just
yeah,
his awareness level is beyond it's something that I think a lot of people achieve to get to. So anyway,
yeah.
I want to thank you for being here. This was I think if anyone had a question about twin flames and what they are, I think those questions were answered today. So I really appreciate your time. You're the first guest I've had on to talk about twin flames.
Right.
So it fascinates me, and I'm sure we could go in 10 different directions with different questions, but
Oh, we could.
uh,
Yeah,
we're
this
we're
it's so complex.
we're in this world and time, so I want it to be at a good time for people to listen to it. So I want to thank you. I usually do turn to the audience and say, please like, share, and subscribe to these shows because I think that we're doing a bit of a mission here and trying to get just the word out to people to hear what is around spirituality. And if people are kind of questioning things in their lives, I think just the idea of even twin flames can make sense to someone. They go, oh, that's why I feel this way, or that's why this relationship is this way. And so, but again,
Yes.
thank you for coming on today. I really
You're
appreciate
welcome.
it.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. It's been great.
So is ya. So